Hey everybody, thanks for clicking that thumbnail, and I hope you enjoy the video. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the Montreal Canadiens salary cap situation, let's put it that way. They're a little bit under the cap, but they need to get a little bit more under the cap. And I'm going to talk about 4 different scenarios that will help them get that way. That's what the video is about. So before we get to that, if you are a big Habs fan and you like to find more new Habs content, please subscribe, ring that notifications bell, and that's going to get you your daily fix of Bleu Blanc Rouge right here at Talkin' Habs. Let's get into the video. So the Montreal Canadiens are just at the moment $383,000 and change below the NHL salary cap of $81.5 million. And it feels like forever since Montreal has been this close to the cap limit, but it's actually only been 4 seasons since they were almost this close. In 2016-17, they finished $470,950 below the cap, and that was at the end of the season. And this year, they are starting the season even closer, and that's a pretty big difference. Because you need cap money sometimes during the season. If you have an injury and the guy can't go on long-term injury relief, so you're not going to get any relief from his salary, you got to bring somebody else in, And listen, that's why you carry the extra players. So granted, but you might have a couple of injuries and there's some movement, and you need to bring in somebody else during the season. Even bringing somebody up from the minors, his salary is going to go against the cap. You need that money. So it's really important that you have at least, in my opinion, and Marc Bergevin has said, $1.5 million is the minimum he wants to go into the season with. So sitting at $383,000 below, they're not there. They have to do something. So it's no secret that they have to find a way to make more room before the season starts, or at some point during the season, because they can start that way. At some point during the season, you got to expect that they're going to make a move. So I think it'll be, though, before camp breaks, before they go to their first game, I think that they will have made a move, simply because they have only a 21-man roster at the moment. So there's only 21 guys to get them to that $383,000 below. And with a probable compressed season of many back-to-back games and 3 games in 4 night scenarios, they will most certainly need more than 1 extra roster player. So, they're going to have to go in the season with, I would think, a minimum of 22. And in these scenarios, it allows them that to get to 22. Okay, with that in mind, along comes an interesting article it's called All Habs Magazine, and it's on the internet. And it's on exactly this subject. And the writer, his name is Chris G. So I'm going to give his full last name. He lays out 4 trade scenarios that would clear up various amounts of cap space while only moving 1 player off the roster. So as you see behind me on the board, this is 2 of the scenarios. I'll at some point take a pause. I will put the other 2 up there and we'll talk about them. And they make sense, sort of. I think 1 is not going to happen. I think 1 is the most likely to happen, and 2 to varying degrees. So we'll go over that. Okay, so I got to that. And it'll clear up varying amounts of cap space, right? So it's not all the same amount, but they're different amounts, but they're all enough to go into the season with. In each scenario, I said that, and allowing Montreal a 22-man roster. So right now, they've got 21 guys on their roster. Going through these 4 scenarios, it'll allow them 1 extra guy, which is going to be very helpful. And it'll also allow them some wiggle room in having enough cap space to make an addition if needed. And believe me, some amount of buffer will be needed at some point during the season. More than likely, that's what I think. Okay. So you can say Montreal shouldn't have bought out Carl Alsner. We'll take a look at that, because they bought out Carl Alsner this season, and it gave them less money available on the cap, but did it really hurt them? So you can say they should have bought him out shouldn't have, because it cost them more this year than if they just kept him in the minors. In the minors, they would have received $1,075,000 off of his salary. The savings difference in buying him out versus not buying him out would have only been about $250,000. That's it. Because do I go through the numbers? I do go through the numbers. Not enough to change the need to make a move now to get further under the cap. So yeah, it wouldn't have made a difference if you had the 250 to the 383. It's still not league minimum 700,000 that they have left, and that's just not enough. So they will. Okay, to get further under the cap, plus they will get almost $2 million in cap savings next season as Alzner's cap hit goes down. So right now their cap hit for him is $3.9 million, somewhere in that area, and next season it'll go down to $1.9 million. Next season they've got all those contracts to deal with, and that extra $2 million is going to be great because I doubt the cap's going to go up. It's at 81.5. It's going to stay flat. Actually, matter of fact, it's going to stay flat for next season, so that $2 million extra is going to make a huge difference. So I explained that with a lot of new. I said that's my opinion. Let's look now at the four scenarios. There is one that I think is most likely, and I've talked about it before. I have talked about the one that I think is going to be the most likely. There's also one I think is absolutely not going to happen, and the other two maybe, and I know I've said this, and we're going to start right away with scenario number one. Now, in the article that I kind of quoted, I mixed them up because just for the way it works, but in these two anyways, this is the two bottom ones. They give you the least amount of cap space relief. So we'll start off trading. We'll start off with a trade of Joel Armia. That's how you pronounce it. Armia is in the last year of a 2-year deal at $2.6 million AAV. He is slated to be a fourth line right wing on this current roster, and some will say that he's wasted there with his skill set, but I tend to disagree with that. And it's not to say that he can't play third line winger. He's not capable to play second line winger, but I don't think his skill set's wasted on the fourth line here. Armia can score. He has decent hands, but he tends to score in close or sudden goals on turnovers in the offensive zone. Or tip-ins, rebounds, or deflections around the net. He has a knack for knocking down passes and intercepting plays and creating turnovers that he quickly transitions into an offensive opportunity, and I think he can be valuable on the fourth line. It allows Montreal to roll four lines, and any line can potentially score at any time. In the RTP, Armia played the fourth line right wing and played well there. He didn't produce a lot of points, I get it, but he played well and he had his opportunities. He's strong on the puck, big, but he could be more physical, and can score 15 goals on the fourth line. In my opinion, he can move up in the lineup if needed and won't hurt you if he does. If you trade Armia for a pick or a prospect, and you send Wheel to the AHL, so Wheel at his $1.4 million, you send him, you get that $1,075,000, I do believe. And I lost myself. Bring up Paling and Belzile, although I do think Paling is already on the 21-man roster. So this gives you a 22-man roster and gives Montreal $1.7 million in cap space going into the season. And that's it matches. It's right there where Bergevin said he wanted $1.5 million as a minimum. So it hits your minimum a little bit more than that, and it's okay. Now this is the scenario. You'll still have Tatarno Gallagher, Drouin Suzuki Anderson, Lehkonen, Kotkaniemi, Toffoli, and I like having Toffoli here. I see a lot of times Toffoli's over here. I like it. It gives KK an offensive winger that he needs, a guy with better hands maybe and producing a bit more points than an Armia, with more experience, got playoff Stanley Cup winning experience. I like having Toffoli with KK. Paling will have to make the team, so that's a bit of a question mark. And I've got Mete here on defense. Yes, I've said it before. I think it's going to be Victor Mete that plays, but it could be Kulak. Kulak will be part of the extras. You got Belzile there, and you can go into the season starting like that. So scenario number 2, that's this one, and that's trading Phil Deneau, and this is the one I don't think at all will happen. So if Marc Bergevin intends to win the Cup in the next few years, trading Deneau is the opposite direction to go. Trading Deneau, it just doesn't make sense. Deneau is not getting traded if Montreal intends to make the playoffs and go far. They traded center Max Domi, for right wing Josh Anderson, and to me that signaled their intent to re-sign Deneau as a priority. It may take a while to get there. That's the negotiations and getting him under contract. But they will get there. That's my hot take. They will get there. They will sign him. I don't know if it'll be short-term or long-term. I don't know exactly what the money is. I'm going to say somewhere around $5.5 million. That's where I think he's going to sign for. In my opinion, about 3-4 years. And I think they will get there. And that's my hot take. It's one hot take here. I think I have another one. Suzuki and Kotkaniemi are not seasoned enough yet to take on the number 1, number 2 center duties. And until they are, Danault's role on the team, to me, is secure. If you're going into the season expecting Nick Suzuki and KK, expecting that to be the way they played in the playoffs, and that's how they're going to play, and they're not going to get injured in this compressed season, and you expect that to happen, I don't know. And then you've got, at least in the writer's scenario, he's got Paul Byron, third-line center. I don't think that would work personally. So you don't really have a third-line center. I think it hurts you. In the long term, it hurts you. In the short term, it hurts you. Phil Danault not getting traded. So that's what I think. Did I finish it? So moving Danault would give them a $1.8 million buffer. But there are better options. There's 2 better options. We're going to get to that. Just going to put on pause. I'm going to rearrange the board, and we're going to get to the 2 better options. All right. So then scenario number 3. So I've changed the board. There's a difference. I made sure I did that. Got my lights on, so I didn't forget that. Okay. So scenario number 3 is the trading of Thomas Tatar. Tatar's in the final year of his current contract. He has a $4.8 million cap hit right now, but if Montreal wants to have the best chance at a playoff spot and maybe even a cup run, I think moving Tatar will be detrimental to that cause. So yes, if they don't re-sign him or trade him by the trade deadline, they chance losing him for nothing. That's true when the season's done. Another hot take, and this is my other hot take. I said I got another one. Tatar won't be traded unless Montreal is clearly not going to make the playoffs by the trade deadline. If they are in a playoff race or making it comfortably, Tatar is staying, even if they lose him 4-0 at the end. Because if they want to make the playoffs and they want to do some damage, and believe me, this team made the move. Bergevin made the moves he made because this team wants to make the playoffs, wants to get far, and wants to win a cup in the near future. If they have that hope for this year at all to have a really good showing, I think trading Tatar before the season starts is not going to help you. Trading him at the trade deadline, if you're in a playoff run, if you're trying to make the playoffs, whatever your situation is not going to help you. And if you're making the playoffs comfortably, trading Tatar away at the trade deadline isn't going to help you get far in the playoffs. So unless they do trade him before the season, I don't see Thomas Tatar being traded unless they are having a bad season and they're not going to make the playoffs. So now I said that, and I got to find where I was. Okay, that's another hot take, blah, blah, blah. That's it. Trading him away makes them worse. I mean, he's their leading scorer last season. He's going to, I'm sure, be up among their coming in. He's playing for a contract. It's the last season, so he's playing for a contract. So it's going to make them worse, not better, and less likely to be successful and make the postseason and beyond. Now, you could say, depending on who they trade him for and what comes back. But remember, in this scenario, we're trying to make cap space. So trading him and bringing somebody back that's going to be as good or better, it's not going to help you with the cap space, so it would make for other moves, and I'm not really going there in this video. So we're going to look at it that you're trading him for futures like a draft pick or prospect, and it's not going to affect your cap this season. Okay. So here's how I look at it. If you trade Tatar, that moves Toffoli up to take his first wing spot. I don't like that in that it gives KK, again, Lehkonen and Armia. KK needs a better winger on one of these sides to help him produce better, I guess. He's a great passer. I saw that in when he went over to Finland. From what I saw in the highlights and stuff, he's a great passer. He can also put the puck in the net. He needs better wingers, at least one, if not both. And by giving him both, KK and Lehkonen and Armia, I don't think that helps them out. And I think Toffoli, an experienced guy, Stanley Cup winning experience, can put the puck in the net on a regular basis, has proven that. I think that's what you want to see there, so I don't really like that. Okay, I said that. So too much offense removed from the lineup, and it's going to be needed in order to win instead of struggle. That's what I said. Take him out of the lineup, and it's too much offense removed. You added a bunch of guys because you needed more. You don't want to take away some. So I don't see Tatar moving. I don't see him moving, and we may lose him at the end of the season for nothing. But that'll be because there was a big playoff run. So trading Tatar would give Montreal a $3.5 million buffer. That's the highest amount of these four scenarios. That is, but I don't think it'll happen. And moves us to the next scenario. That's trading Paul Byron. I think this is the most likely scenario. I've said this before, and a lot of people are talking about that. Now I sound like Trump. People are talking about it. No, I just think that this is like the most likely scenario. So this is the one I think is most likely, as I just said 3 times. Paul Byron, to me, is the most expendable here, and it's almost strictly based on his cap hit. It really is, because he's a good player. You want to have him. He's great on the fourth line, but his $3.4 million AAV is too much for a player who will most likely play all year on the fourth line. In a flat cap era, your role on the ice should dictate your salary. This will also probably be an issue next season for Armia. At $2.6 million, if he's going to stay on the fourth line, it's going to become an issue, just like Byron is right now, in my opinion. Byron is a very useful player. He wears an A on his sweater for a reason, but he's also been injured a lot and somewhat inconsistent lately. So you take that into account. When he's playing well, he's effective, fast, a scoring threat, both at 5-on-5 and on the penalty kill. I like Paul Byron, but having a versatile player like Toffoli come in this season, he can play any position, even center. Like Paul Byron, he's bigger, probably a little bit more skilled, and a lot more experience in the winning, because he's got at least 1 Stanley Cup. I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2. As well, okay, I said that. And Byron's 5'9" frame, opposed to, I think I just said that, opposed to Toffoli is 6'1", I think. And I think he's the most likely to be moved out of these 4. It creates minimal change to the lineup, and he gets Montreal $2.1 million under the cap, and that's enough to go through the season. It's better than the other 2 scenarios. 2.1, I think that's plenty to start, and and there's hardly any change. I think the only change that I see here is basically, where's the change? So you had Byron here on the wing or at center, and there's not a lot of change if you move Byron. And that's, I think, the whole point here, is you don't really affect the lineup too much. And it's a guy, he's important. But I think in getting to Foley, you've taken away a lot of what you're going to get out of Byron, and he can replace that at a little bit of a higher level. So there you go. I don't think the defense, as you noticed, hasn't really been affected. Obviously, the goaltending isn't affected, and the extra guys that we're going to carry, more than likely Kulak for defense and Wheel, Kulak or Mete for the defense, unless Juleson or Fleury, that's a possibility, but I won't go there yet, and Wheel or Belzile if you're trying to save that little extra money on that first scenario. And that's it. So that's how I think they could go about getting under the cap comfortably. They're going to need to do it because you can't go into the season $383,000 under the cap. You need to have at least $1 million. $2 million would be better. And so I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to find out. I think it'll happen during training camp. They're going to want to see how Ryan Poehling plays, how Fleury plays, how Juleson plays. They're going to want to see that before they make these moves. That's my opinion. So we'll see how that works out. I've said it here. You got me on record, and we'll take a look back after camp starts or after the season starts and see if I was right. So there you go. That's my look at how they can get below the cap comfortably to where Marc Bergevin wanted it at $1.5 million or better than that. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down there about these 4 scenarios. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel or you haven't subscribed yet and you're a Habs fan and you'll want to see some daily content on the Habs, subscribe and ring that notifications bell also down there, and that'll get you your daily fix of Bleu Blanc Rouge right here at Talking Habs. Thanks for watching, everybody. I do appreciate that. Please stay safe out there in this pandemic and everything else that's going on. And peace out. See you next video. Bye, everybody.